All right, so we are busy with Unit 3, which is writing and presenting for a wide range of purposes. Last week we looked at how to communicate verbally, non-verbally. We've also looked at the general, I'm not saying attitude, but the formatics of business communication, and this is where we're going to be drawing this particular section out of our sectors moving forward through the POE and the course on communication with quite a short video, and we'll obviously have a conversation on Classroom. Please don't forget to just communicate with one another and with myself, and obviously we'll see each other as well during our live sessions. Okay, not like I said, not sit back, not too long of a video, not too much of your time going to be taken up today. Please, before I start, also do watch the sub video. And then again, we will have those questions. All right, let's just get into it. And we're going to start off with just the differences between what is, last week we looked at verbal communication, non-verbal communication, and how I would say the impact is very different because it's immediate, and we saw how effective verbal communication was within the workplace, and again within the project. I'd say the project miniverse. But a lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot of communication is done in the written format. And when we are writing, you know that there is no instant feedback. There is also a tone, style, and content that needs to be administered when we are, putting together a document within, our project management plan, and throughout obviously the processes which we will learn about moving forward. From our next massive focus, which is going to be scope and time management, and so on and so forth. But we've all been in a situation where we know we read something. It might be on a mail, it might be on an SMS, WhatsApp, we have misinterpreted it, miscommunicated, because I say attitude, atmosphere, and also again, just the overall impact and effectiveness that we might want to think is communicated through text is actually not, because again it lacks in again the words that we might use, the way in which we use them, and also again being concise. But let's look at the tone first, which it refers to the general attitude that we are conveying the writing. So we want to try and imagine ourselves talking on paper, which that might seem a little obvious, but if you have a little bit of doubt, whatever it may be, read it out loud, read it back, or read it to someone, and you'll understand that we've discussed this before. Within the business environment, we don't really have any place. I say there is no place, but in reality it still happens where we don't have a tolerance for people with short tempers, or how you're feeling today from a personal level, and how that should affect your work. And I know that sounds very cold, but it kind of puts everyone on the same playing field when we are talking about production, and productivity. So just going back to tone, style, and content, we want to be able to make sure that the way that we are communicating in the written form, right, is the way we would communicate with our colleagues, or our managers, or our bosses, or it doesn't really matter, anyone, is very I say formal in a professional sense. Okay, so If you are upset about something, you can be very upset about it and always bank on the facts. Like if you want to be complimentary, you can also be complimentary based on the facts. If you want to inform, you inform based on the facts. And that's always going to be a safe space. It's a good style. So it is the way in which we each of us will have a particular style, but as you learn and as you have probably learned already in your careers, that when you do communicate within a work environment or a work context, we want to kind of develop a writing style that is I say generically accepted. So it will vary slightly from person to person, but if you keep the professional attitude towards how you are writing both formal and informal communication, reports, again, updates, etc., etc. It's gonna definitely save you a lot of trouble in the long run. So when in doubt, rather err on the side of being too casual or informal than too formal. And I want to let you think about that and really take it with a pinch of salt, because that doesn't allow us to go to the one extreme and be very informal. Um, but there is that other restriction on the other side where you get too formal and you lose the I say maybe the context, also the purpose of what it is that you're trying to communicate, and obviously the audience, again, to whom you're communicating. So the content, it's always determined by the purpose of why we are writing, what we are writing. And again, we want to do a couple of things. We want to persuade, want to inform. I suppose in some context, I haven't really been able to think of a context that would entertain. But if you want to entertain or argue, that would be um, that would be fine too. Okay, let's go look at the next section there. Where we are always mindful of why we are writing what we are writing. So again, this is not this is not a new playing field for you. You understand exactly, within your daily work routine and your environment and what you have done on a day-to-day basis. This is you have written within your professional environment. So we're just going to tweak this up and just remind you a couple of things that you have to think about and moving forward. If you do find a weak spot for yourself, then remember to be mindful of it and move forward. Practice makes perfect. So who we are writing to is very important, because not only in terms of when it says the level of expertise, uh, where for me it's really more about the role that you're playing. So I've said this in class and I've said it in the other video. It's if you're speaking to a COO or CEO or a middle manager or a departmental manager, or we have work floor staff, we're talking about expertise and not exactly in hierarchy. Um, Although that does play a role, yes, obviously. But what is important to each person within that context is exactly what you think about in terms of level of expertise. And then that will also change the type of, I say, the type of content around the context that you want to communicate. So, I said this, I always use money as an example. So money will be a very clear indicator as to how we address money in a business or a project with our project manager, or again our COO, versus our different hierarchy and levels of people within the project or within our company. Different things will be said about the profit or the income or so our expenses to different people. Okay, so definitely always communicate the purpose of why we are reading a document, because we want to know, you want to give them kind of a perspective as to where this is all going. So, and that also allows someone to buy in directly uh, into what they are reading, make it very clear, make it very short, and I like to compartmentalize purpose within separate documents. So once it starts veering out of scope per purpose, then you need to be creating a different document with a different format, and again within different context for a different person or the same person. So we also have to think about the reader's attitude to both you and the content of the document. And again, we also might be looking at a problematic situation. And I'm going to the negative side here, but let's look at a problematic situation. We want to resolve this, as effectively and without any prejudice, I would say, to the situation. But you have to obviously attack the problems at hand, and then have processes that deal with it, so that we can get to a solution quicker. We In the previous lesson we spoke about just playing the say the martyr, or even using dirty words, and there's really no place for that type of um, um, say communication in the workspace. So just remember again the attitude, and I said that again in the context is really important. If we look at why you're writing, you're providing information always, and you'll see that in your summative and your formative questioning, this will come up, where we might have a narrative, purpose. We might be just telling and narrating, or say directing our team according to certain information, reflective, where we will ingest and certain information, certain facts, I would say certain states of the project, and be able to um, definitely put our own take on it when we communicate it outwards, okay, to the relevant parties. Descriptive. At the same time, I think that's also uh, quite straightforward, but there might be quite complicated processes that we want to make sure that we have very clear understanding of technical processes, logistical processes, and so on and so forth. Where expository writing is about the who, what, when, where, and why of a situation. Okay. We are writing to persuade a reader, where you are looking at, the words that you use to be either, as it says here, and as you can see, discursive or argumentative writing. Where those are examples, but it's all done with purpose at the end of the day. What do you want to achieve? Why are you writing this? To whom? And what do you want as a call to action? To give instructions would be another reason. So transaction writing, and I think that's quite straightforward. Or to enact or prohibit something, and that is used in like our business correspondence, but more so like we have a we have a say I always say a business miniverse, right? Where we have certain rules, regulations, um, uh, prohibiting our workers from doing stuff, enacting our workers from doing stuff. There's structure that is Definitely you'll see in all contracts, or again procurement contracts, or whatever it may be. There's a framework there that we would have to also consider as part of why we are writing what we are writing. Okay. So, looking at the process of drafting, I've seen this happen. Again, we've seen each other a couple of times, and just when we're working out our, our creative approach to, solving a problem. A lot of people sat on the blank page and didn't really know what to write because they're thinking too much about how to write it. And it is, drafts about, it borders on your brainstorming. When you have the freedom of being able to write without thinking of the words that I use, and just the tenses, etc., etc. And you're probably going to say to me, "But that doesn't really make any sense." You will be free to write freely. So a lot of your ideas will start just flooding out, and again, even within reports, like we want to get all the information out, and then go back after writing your drafts in whatever shape, way, or form you've decided to go forward with it, and then clean it up, and then clean it up again. So here are a couple of steps, and they are quite straightforward. We want to write down a heading or a title that obviously is relevant to exactly what your subject matter is going to entail as the reader continues with your documentation. Decide the tone, the style, and the content as explained before. Choose your tense, so present tense, past tense, and again that also will vary. There will be a hybrid of that as well. Um, excuse me. Start with a very brief intro. Always remember to keep your communication as short as possible, and that's very important. If we are writing, if you are forced to write a very long report, I would assume, very safely assume, that that would be expected also as part of, again, your business etiquette, and your business culture. For certain documents, might be 10 pages, might be 12 pages, and so on and so forth. Okay. So, please, paragraphs are amazing. We love it. It gives us a little bit of breath. And building sentences carefully but plainly. So again, goes back to the whole conversation of communicating simply, to a large extent informally, and wherever you can avoid the jargon, then erase that out. But again, I just to reiterate, like, this will come for me. It's a repetitive process. So you will go back and you will fix and really take it from me. It works. It works well. If you just blast them out in the beginning. Let's go to step 7. Vary the sentence lengths and the types. So we, just in terms of communication, we actually don't like having commas in sentences. When you state a point, you must state a point. And if you find that a little bit difficult when you do write corporate documentation, then I would really do it in point form at first, just so that you can understand the one thought per sentence is really what you're aiming for. A lot of people tend to repeat themselves when they are writing, and including your conjunction syntax, so your commas and your dashes, whatever it may be. English. I was never good at English at school, but anyway. But you understand what I'm saying to you. It really is about stating a point and ending it with a full stop, and then moving on to the next one. Point number 8 there, it says use all your senses to obtain the detail. So don't write with speed. Okay. Or haste is a better word. I think if the longer you sit with it, just give it a little bit of time. I say a little bit of breathing space, you will be able to just not endanger whatever documentation and whatever communication purpose you're trying to communicate to another party will not be missed of detail, and end with an impactful conclusion. So again, you'll see that in the supplementary video that I've sent there. I'll post it for you. It really is what we say is a call to action. So what is it exactly that you're trying to achieve with this particular document? And again, communication. So the don'ts are repeating yourself, as I mentioned before. Start any sentence with conjunctions and, but, so, then, because, etc. It's one also grammatically incorrect. We don't want to start sentence like that. But again, it goes back to the whole thing of one thought, one sentence. Please, making spelling mistakes is very unprofessional. And again, something I do mention in the supplementary material is we work in with software that checks that for you. So be vigilant about that, and don't look at spelling and grammar. Punctuation mistakes using exclamation marks when you really shouldn't. I mean, I don't see a context where an exclamation mark is, it's say comfortable to use within a business environment. And then to mix up your tenses, that, look, I mean, it does, if you're not a writer, I would say, or you haven't, or writing, like business writing is not part of your daily work routine, it would be something that you'd have to, obviously, like anything, practice makes perfect. You'll make some mistakes, and that's okay. But as long as you're improving on each one. Okay. So let's go to editing, and we'll end just after here, where I encourage this to be not a solo act, especially if you're too close to the documentation. Have obviously first for yourself. I said to you before, write your draft and write it openly in terms of what you want to say, especially when we are looking at scope and different risks that are involved within a project, manpower, whatever it may be. We want to have, like I say, an open approach to it. But then, again, as I said before, it's so that you can get your ideas out, and it probably will look like a bit of a mess. It should actually look like a bit of a mess. And we'll go back for the editing process here, where you must go and really with I'm really bad with idioms or terms, but with a fine-toothed comb, I think that's right. You want to do it meticulously and make sure that this document, that you are constructing or creating, is to the highest quality and standard. So checking for your own mistakes first. You should also then look for maybe technical. I say if it's contextually wrong, both technically, also factually. That's a very big no-no, obviously, because that will affect your credibility. Say perception also is a big thing, because if we look at errors in sentences, grammar, etc., also the types of word that you use, it's not about just a first impression. Like this type of I mean, you're doing a business document. It's going to be filed. It's going to be used by one plus more people, and there's just a big no to all of that. There isn't really any, like I say, wiggle room. There we go, wiggle room to go around saying, well, listen, there's we'll have a document and it can be 80% professionally edited. Okay, but just to close off this part of communication, unit 3, remember to follow a couple of key principles. Place your chapter headings at the top of a new page with subheadings separated by an empty line. So that's very handy, and it also again mentally subliminally it also allows the reader to breathe. So that's an important one. Always report on the direct words of others by using quotation marks. So don't we learned about paraphrasing and just being able to put it in our own words, facts in our own words. When it does come from someone else, and it is a quote from, again, it could be a consumer or again, any one of your stakeholders, I would say. We want to show accountability to a fair level. We want to be able to do it within quotation marks, quote them directly. Strive to write the way that you naturally talk. Yes, please. That's a biggie and a big plus. And use ordinary words in your writing. Okay. Um, Good luck with it, and I hope that was helpful. We will see each other in our live sessions. Thank you so much.